Hello.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
It seems like your sinuses are possessed.
Oh, Pazuzu's in my nose right now.
Cute.
Yep. That little face poking out being like,
Sneezy.
I'm congesting you. Your mother's has a stuffed nose in hell.
Oh, Jesus.
What's up? How's it going?
Good.
Yeah.
All things considered, how are you?
Yeah, it's going. I'm good. I'm so good. This is great.
Just well.
Everything in the world is fine.
Yes. No further comment.
We don't want to talk about that.
No.
It's been a while since we recorded, actually.
Yeah.
But we live together, so I see you like all the time.
Yes.
But you're well?
Oh, this is leading up to a question.
You look good, yeah.
I love that. Because you started with like, we live together.
Question mark? Yeah. I also, my voice sounds a little bit like the woman who did the voice of Pazuzu in the original Exorcist.
Dude. Yeah.
Mercedes something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's because I've been sick for fucking ever, and then I got vaccinated, and that also made me sick for a couple days. Mm-hmm. I still don't feel normal.
It's gonna be, it's the Pazuzu of your chest. That's where it's all at right now. And then it's gotten to your face, and soon it'll be off through the top of your head, and that's how science works.
As I said, I got vaccinated, and I am a pro-vaccination person, but the weirdest side effect of getting vaccinated this time, which is like the 6th or 7th that I've got, I've gotten a million, is that there was a little raised help me on my stomach as soon as it happened.
From the inside. But it was like the other way around. You had to read it in the mirror.
Yeah.
Nice.
The reason we're talking so much about The Exorcist is not because we're talking about the good Exorcist movie, the one single good one. We're talking about Dominion,
baby.
Prequel to The Exorcist. Now, a couple things to get out of the way first. The reason we're talking about this film that you, me, and only Paul Schrader have ever seen is that Paul Schrader is the director. And when this comes out, he should be releasing a film titled Oh, Canada.
Stop, really?
Yes.
Oh.
Another Paul Schrader film starring Richard Gere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Okay.
I think that's it. We're revisiting a Schrader film that is probably like the least Schrader film to ever have been Schrader ever.
Did he write this?
No.
Maybe that's why.
Caleb Carr wrote this. And I know that name because I'll tell you. The most interesting thing about this film, unfortunately, is everything that happened after it was made.
Oh yeah, there's some Dominion tea.
Oh, there's a fucking teapot.
It's piping,
babe. You could open up a tea shop based on all the bags of tea.
Give me it. Let's hear it.
I will, but I want to talk a little bit about the movie because the movie. Actually, sorry, let's back up. I want to talk about the series. We all know that The Exorcist is a brilliant film. Do you agree?
Hard agree.
It's a great film.
Traumatic.
It's one of the greatest movies.
Yeah.
I love it to death. I think it's
still holds.
I think it's kind of a miracle that movie is good, considering the source material. Now, I heard someone once say that the Exorcist book is not good. And I read it, and I think I actually quite enjoyed it. Maybe it's not a great work of literature, but I quite liked it. But it's not... I wouldn't say it's like very high, heavy source material. And the movie ends up being something pretty miraculous. Like I think it's like very lucky.
Yeah.
What happened? And the lesson that you young filmmakers out there can learn from this is that if you're a psychopath who abuses your cast, crew, and actors while making a film, you might make something great, and everyone will hate you for it, but, you might make something great.
Oh, boy.
As William Friedkin was well known to have done on The Exorcist. Now, I did my homework, and I watched The Exorcist 3. I skipped 2, because 2 has 7% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Come
and
on.
is not, apparently, I was like, I don't know if I need to get into that one. I watched 3. a film directed by the author of The Exorcist, William Peter Blatty, based on... So 3 is based on his novel Legion, which originally he wrote a script for. They didn't want to make it. He turned it into a novel. The novel was successful. They were like, let's revamp this.
Really?
Let's revise this project. And he turned it back into a film.
Oh, shit.
A film that's closer to Zodiac than it is The Exorcist, to be perfectly frank.
William Peter Blatty.
Also a film that was taken away from him after finishing, which should be, you should ring a bell. And then I did not watch The Exorcist the beginning because for all intents and purposes, Dominion is the same film. It's just been cut and finished by Paul Schrader.
So,
and we'll get into why. But
I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. But can I finish? And in a very Christ-like moment of compassion for everyone on earth, I watched Exorcist Believer, which came out last year and was a critical and commercial failure. And there's a good reason for that. It's not good.
Has anything after the first one been good?
Well, that's what's so interesting about it. No. The weird thing is like, for anyone out there interested in exploring the Exorcist franchise, Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist, the movie we're talking about today, is the second best film.
I agree.
It's not that great. Like there's a lot in this movie that I actually think is quite good, and it has a lot of potential, but it's wild. It's like not a great film.
So when we were watching this movie that we're talking about today, Dominion, I thought I was having a stroke and that I had seen almost every scene, but remembered it differently. And then you told me that it is basically a copy of Exorcist, the beginning.
Yes. Well, I'm gonna go into great detail as to what happened there.
Okay.
And my guess is that you maybe have at some point in your life seen Exorcist the beginning without knowing it.
Without knowing it.
Yeah.
And then today, when we started watching this one, and then I was kind of going back through the YouTube world of maybe like little snippets of the beginning, that's when I was like, oh yeah, the fucking upside down statue or the rainy thing. Okay. Yeah. I just feel like
I don't know. I like I said, I haven't seen the beginning because from the reviews, like what a lot of people said. So Roger Ebert, he liked this. He liked Dominion. He thought this was a good movie, but he also, like a lot of the reviewers, from what I guessed, was like they were all like, they're about as good as each other.
They are.
The Dominion, like they said, like it's interesting to see two. What's so fascinating about this exercise is that there are two movies that are the same, that are just finished, put with like given a different spin by two different directors. But mostly people were like, they're kind of the same movie. So it's not really worth like getting too crazy over.
It's interesting because I remember Exorcist the beginning being terrifying. It is compared to Dominion.
Dominion is not very scary. That's the thing.
Dominion is vibes. Exorcist the beginning is pure terror. Like it is just as horrifying with her face and the scars. And, the CG is, there.
Dominion is interesting because it's like they hired Schrader and then like they didn't know that at one point. What's so interesting is Schrader thought about becoming a priest. He grew up in a very strict Calvinist upbringing. And he talked about he hadn't like seen a movie until he was like 17 at the cinemas or something. And then that changed his life. But he still thought about going to the seminary. So you'd think that this movie, compared to something like First Reformed, this seems like right in Schrader's lane. And he makes it very Schrader-esque in that it's like, oh, it's not scary. It's about like faith, and it's about the loss of faith and about your belief and stuff like that, with no scares whatsoever. There's some gore, but there's no like real scary parts to it. And when it was finished, that was the big point of contention with who was it? Whoever the fuck owns the thing.
Merkel.
Angela Merkel, Chancellor of Germany. Yes. Whoever owns the new. It's not New Line. It's like Roadhouse Village or some shit. I'll see it later. But like that was like the main bone of contention was they were like they saw the cut and they were like, oh boy.
Well, that's because, like you said, this has a lot of First Reformed lurking in here, or at least the idea of it, and then it kind of led him to do his own thing, write it, do it. But this movie, Dominion, feels like prestige horror. It's more drama than it is horror.
Yeah.
It's a shame that they had to kind of, come to the odds of it, like with the mandate of being horror.
So one thing in watching all of these movies and reading some of the feedback on them over the years, one thing that like strikes me about them is that oftentimes they go into it and they're always produced by the same folks who they own the rights to The Exorcist, right? They go into it and they're always like, give us like a fresh take on The Exorcist. And almost invariably when that happens, they're always like, right, but also do the head turning around and the puking and all that. Please, like, don't forget that there has to be an exorcism and things like that. And I think I want to talk about Believer for a second because that movie is not good, but there are a lot of aspects to it that I quite like. And the problem in the end is that they just have like a very generic and boring exorcism scene. And that takes up like kind of the latter 40 minutes of a movie that's an hour and 40 minutes long. And it's just like, but the premise of it and the kind of background to it is good. And you're like, oh, this could lead to something, and it just doesn't. And it just kind of leads to like something much more generic. But the original Exorcist has like, it's like a movie that has ideas in it and has like stuff you can read into it.
Sure.
And I feel like Dominion also has those like thematic ideas, like the ideas of like colonialism and things and faith versus, not faith, things like that. Like
it's like a meditation on good versus evil.
But it does feel like someone like Schrader was like, no, I want to make a movie about these ideas, not a horror movie.
That's exactly
Whereas
it.
like I found like when I watched The Exorcist 3, which is the first time I've only seen it, and it's not great, but it's that movie is kind of bereft of thematic idea, in my opinion. Like it feels a little like lacking in that regard, whereas Exorcist 1 and Dominion are the two that are like reaching for something beyond just a little girl pukes and her head turns around.
Because there's world building in it.
Yeah, there is.
Because there's all this cool shit about like, oh, someone built a church on top of Lucifer's, party house and hope it doesn't open again in this fucking post-Byzantine era.
Yeah.
Christian Kenya or wherever they end up going.
The Turkana region of British occupied Kenya.
British Kenya, yeah. And so there's all this like, and also visually it's fucking cool because you feel like you're in a sandstorm at all times. The color choice, the Dune-esque-ness
You know what it reminds me of?
Stargate. Oh, hey, I did say Stargate when we were watching it.
Yeah. I like the I like that kind of
that quality.
That discovery. It's got like aspects of like The Mummy and Stargate.
Yeah.
Almost more than The Exorcist.
Yeah. It looked kind of early Indiana Jones.
I really like those movies. Like I like those adventure films and stuff. And like I don't know. I just find the other movies are thematically kind of like, I mean, whatever.
And then, but they did try to ham-fist into Dominion a bunch of bad CG.
I mean, okay, I think there's good reason for that, though. Like, first of all, it's 2005. Second of all, it has a very low budget. Third of all, we got to talk. I want to talk about the plot, and then I want to talk about how it was made, and we'll kind of get into why the CGI was so terrible.
Yeah.
Which, well, I can only speculate, but I think I know why. So why don't we talk about the plot of this movie? It's very simple, and we don't have to kind of go too deep into it. One second here. So it starts in World War II. Father Marin is forced by the SS to choose who to kill. Someone had killed someone in this Nazi-occupied village, and the SS decide that this priest is probably the most honest person, so they make him decide who to kill. And they end up killing all of these Dutch people, I believe. It's in Dutchland. Dutchville.
Is that real?
Yeah, I think so.
I think Dutch are real.
The Dutch are real.
They're real.
Danes are different, though, right? They're a different country.
You know what? There's no way to know.
All right. I don't want to go on a tangent.
Yeah.
What are the Flemish? No, just kidding.
This is why they were forced to kill them all in the movie.
Okay. He's haunted by that, and he loses his faith, and he takes up his next best passion, which is archaeology, and he ends up going to the Turkana region of Kenya. This is in 1947. A younger priest, Father Francis, joins him there to uncover a 5th century Byzantine church. Now, I wanted to Father Francis, that actor. While we were watching this movie, I was like, I've seen this guy in so many things. Yeah, and he's good in this. I like him. And I was like, what? But I was like, what is this? I'm like, he's in one movie and he's really good in it. And I'm like, what movie is it? You know what movie it is, which is really funny?
Yeah.
The Bourne Supremacy. He plays
Oh shit.
He plays a CIA analyst
Yeah.
who he's good and stuff, but then there's like a moment where he shows Brian Cox. He's like, "Hey, so I noticed this thing and like this like there's something fishy going on here," and Brian Cox breaks his neck and kills him.
No.
It's so good.
His claim to fame,
But
baby.
I remember I love The Bourne Supremacy a lot. I think it's a fucking great film. But I remember every time I watch that movie, I always forget about that moment because I'm like, oh yeah, Brian Cox snaps
Kills
his
his
fucking
ass.
neck in like cold blood. It's great.
Yeah.
So Father Francis goes to join him in Kenya. They uncover this church. They're surprised at how pristine it is. Like, it's like it was buried on purpose shortly after it was built. They get inside the church. They find a normal kind of St. Michael, blah, blah, blah. Then underneath, they find a satanic idol.
Also normal.
Yeah.
Normal stuff.
Normal satanic idol that appears the church was built over.
Oh, boy.
Later, these like British soldiers go in to loot the church of some some gems and stuff, which is the part of the colonial aspect. There's this tribe nearby, the Turkana people, and there's a British military regiment who are occupying the region as well, and they are in sort of tense conflict a little bit. Those soldiers are killed in a very grisly and Christian manner.
Yeah.
One is decapitated, and another is hung from crucified, basically.
Oof.
In the meantime, Marin encounters this disabled tribes person named Cheche, a young man, and he brings him to Rachel, who is also a former victim of the SS. She has a Holocaust tattoo.
Right.
She's a nurse. Brings him there for him to get treatment for he has kind of a messed up
It's like
arm
a polio, maybe?
something like it looks something like that. And he recovers miraculously. And Francis realizes that his recovery is due to him being possessed by the devil.
Mm-hmm.
And so Francis rushes away to try and,
exorcise
him. As this has been happening, the tribes people are all very concerned about the church. They want them to bury it again. They come into conflict with Granville, who is the lieutenant of the British Army. And Granville ends up shooting a woman in cold blood.
Oof.
And he later commits suicide out of guilt. Francis is found. He's been killed by the tribes people, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
He's tied to a tree and shot with arrows.
Arrows, yeah.
Marin realizes that Cheche is possessed as well,
Mm-hmm.
and he has to go exorcise him. And basically, he exorcises him from in the church, and then the region returns to normal, and he returns to Rome, having regained his faith.
So the exorcism is successful in this movie.
Yes.
And I think in the beginning, Exorcist, the beginning, I think Sarsgaard fails, from what I remember.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do know.
I think that's what makes it freaky and like continues to keep the fear in you.
So in this movie, one thing which I can understand, I don't know, I didn't read anything, I don't know, this is all speculation on my part. In this movie, it's not clear whether it's Pazuzu who is possessing Cheche.
Yeah.
Pazuzu is the villain of The Exorcist, apparently, or whether it's like Satan himself. And I understand if a studio was kind of like, well, wouldn't it make sense if it was the same one who's in the original Exorcist, right? I would prefer the Schrader version of it, where it's like it doesn't have to be, because like, it's
evil.
In the original Exorcist, if you think back, they're like, we should bring in Father Marin. He took part in an exorcism in Africa.
Yeah.
And then it just seems like it would be like an absurd coincidence to be like, okay, isn't it the same fucking like Satan being? It seems a little too literal.
Yeah.
But the tribes people at the end do say, they're like, this demon will like stalk you forever, basically. So it's implied that it's the same one that's in the original Exorcist.
Because it takes form in the hyena's eyes or whatever. Like it goes into the animal instead.
And then I'm sure that it makes its way to Nairobi and buys a first-class ticket. And a couple layovers, and you're in Washington D.C. and you end up in some chick's attic. So
they just fly.
Yeah, it's first class. Yeah, they're a demon. They're not like some fucking
not
loser.
An animal. Come on.
Yeah. Not an animal.
I heard somewhere that the final 20 minutes of the film were scored by the American metal band Dog Fashion Disco.
Yes, at Paul Schrader's request.
At Paul Schrader's son's affection.
Well,
for the group.
he introduced Paul Schrader to them, and Paul Schrader had to ask Dog Fashion Disco to finish the music free of charge.
Oh,
yes.
Damn.
So let's talk about all of this. Let's bring these threads together here, because
yes, sir.
the movie, as I said, it's an okay movie. It's kind of not a very good movie, but it's all right. It's got potential.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say rush out and watch it. What's more interesting is everything that happened basically after it was shot.
Yes.
So this might be kind of a long story, but first thing you have to know is that there's an absurd amount of like backbiting and and like subtweeting from everyone involved in this film towards each other. And I will note, everything I'm about to say is from Paul Schrader's perspective, so it's biased. Like what I'm saying is biased from his perspective. I found a website. I found a very long interview with Paul Schrader on the reputable website CaptainHowdy.net, which since 1999 has been the key resource for Exorcist lovers across the globe.
Incredible.
A guy in Belgium interviewed him because Dominion was shown at the Brussels International Film Festival for the first time, and he was interviewing before that. And this really harkens back to a time when people would be interviewed by people and would say whatever they wanted, and it wasn't like, yeah, I love Jennifer Garner. She's so great. I love working with her. It's so wonderful.
Yeah.
No shade to Jennifer Garner. This is the first person who popped to mind. But like the way that people don't ever really say like
what's on their mind.
I don't think people have to talk shit. Yeah. But if you're like, if you're not happy with a thing, it's okay to be not happy.
Do what Megan Fox did in Transformers.
Well, exactly.
Yes.
There are many things to admire about Megan Fox.
That's
one of them. And you know what? That actually, to be honest, that might have been a turning point in when people were like, all right, we can't just have people talking shit whenever they want. Okay? Because then we have to fire them off the fucking movie.
God damn it.
But Paul Schrader, having been fired once, clearly didn't have to worry about that. So he gets interviewed and yeah, so there's a couple of people you have to know. Jim Robinson, I believe credited as James G. Robinson. Okay. He's the head of Morgan Creek. They're the ones who I was struggling to find their name of earlier. Morgan Creek. They're the owners of The Exorcist. They produce every Exorcist movie. Caleb Carr, he's a historian. He was also the writer of this film, as far as I could tell. On his Wikipedia page, it seemed to have expunged every single mention of this film from his Wikipedia. They were just like, he's a military historian and writer. That's it.
No.
He doesn't write anything else. But I'm pretty sure it's him. Either way, Caleb Carr, by the way, he's dead. So I can say whatever I want about him.
Hey, that's how this works.
Rennie Harland. Rennie Harland is the guy who took over directing duties from Paul Schrader and reshot big portions of the movie to make Exorcist the Beginning. And Vittorio Storaro, who is the cinematographer. He figures in a little bit for reasons we'll talk about later. Basically, what was very funny was that Schrader worked with Storaro, who is kind of like a legend in Italy, and he's a teacher. He was a teacher at the time, but he was also a cinematographer. Schrader worked with him, and then worked with him again to tried to bring him back to finish the film later, but Morgan Creek wouldn't let Storaro come in to color time the movie, and so he couldn't finish it. And then Caleb Carr in an interview was like, oh yeah, Schrader and Storaro hated each other. And Paul Schrader was like, no, we don't. We like each other. Oh. I email him all the time. Yeah. Oh. So there's a lot of like pissy attitude towards
there's
this
some like
work.
TMZ shit going on
Oh,
there.
for sure. Schrader finishes this movie, films in Morocco and partially in Rome, and he finishes the film. He gives it to Morgan Creek and he screens it for them. And they immediately hate it. They're basically like, there's nothing scary. There's no gore.
Can I ask?
Yes.
They've read the script. They greenlight the script.
I'm nodding. I'm big time nodding.
And
yes.
Still, they're
big
after
nods.
the movie, they're like, no.
During the screening, Schrader was like, they did not give me any notes. That's a bad sign.
Oh,
They
shit.
just said, neat. And then I left. And then later they said, we did not like that. Can you please recut it? Schrader was given 2 chances to recut the film. Okay. And neither of them worked for the studio because he didn't have the footage that they wanted. He didn't shoot the stuff that they thought. And what Schrader said was, yeah, they read the script, they approved the script. Schrader wrote parts of the script. He didn't write enough to get a writing credit, though.
Right.
But Schrader is a writer, we know, and he wrote some parts of the script. He basically said that he was like, I knew immediately that they were having some kind of buyer's remorse. When, like, because we all said okay, shook hands, I left to Morocco, and it immediately seemed like they didn't interfere much with him, I don't think, as the film was being made. But as soon as they saw it, they were basically like, we regret this decision.
Oh my God.
So after the 2 times Schrader was offered to recut the film, neither of them which passed muster with Morgan Creek. Another editor was hired by Morgan Creek to finish the film. This didn't go over well with Schrader because he wanted to cut his own movie.
Yeah.
And
I mean, how disrespectful, but yikes. But yeah, money is involved.
So Schrader was basically like, they basically had fired him at this point. They were like, we're bringing another editor. You can go home. We would no longer need your services. Schrader was still pissed about the other editor, clearly. They start talking. The studio is basically like, okay, we have to film new stuff. We have to film pickups. We have to film new things. We have to salvage this film, which is the Schrader version of this movie is $30 million budget. Excuse me. No, that's incorrect. A $20 million budget.
Oh, wow.
The Rennie Harlin part of this film is $40 million.
Yikes.
They spend around $80 million total to make this film twice.
3 times as much?
Yeah.
Dude.
Well, no, between Schrader and Rennie Harlin, they spend around $80 million to get this film made.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So they talk about doing pickups. Then they basically are like, we might have to scrap this entire film. Rennie Harlin comes in and he proposes a bunch of new work. And like, Schrader didn't either. And I don't know anything about Rennie Harlin, but Schrader didn't want to like throw, too much shade at Rennie Harlin because he's just doing a job. Like, it's not fucking, it's whatever, right?
Yeah, it's logistics at this point.
The one funny point, though, was that Schrader speculated that on the DVD release of Exorcist: The Beginning, like, Rennie Harlin was told not to mention that he was just kind of meant to be like, oh, this is the only version of this film. Like, this is the only film. And it's we just filmed it. That's it. This is a film.
No.
Yeah.
And then it fucking tanked?
Yeah.
Oh.
Harlan does this. He films new parts of the film. He cuts it. He releases it. The film does bad. Paul Schrader goes to the cinema with William Peter Blatty, the author of The Exorcist.
Yes.
William Peter Blatty, who was still pretty upset about the fact that he was fired off of Exorcist 3. And Schrader was like, we watched the movie and it wasn't very good. And Blatty was mortified because it was his it's his original work that they're kind of not making a good job. Butchered is an unkind word, but yes, that they're butchering. And Schrader was like, but I was actually kind of excited because I was like, maybe they'll release my version.
They're just in there with their champagne glasses like clink.
Yeah.
It's going to be our day in the sun soon.
After this, the studio approaches Schrader to cut his own his version of this film, which is wild.
Wow.
It's so wild.
Can't believe they tucked their tails and went back to Schrader after this just to get him to like, hey, whatever you got.
Originally, they hired another editor and they were like, can you assemble Schrader's cut? And the editor starts working on it and he's like, I need the man. I need Paul Schrader to do this with me. I can't do it on my own, basically. Of course. And the studio is like, we will get Paul Schrader. We will pay him $35,000 to finish this movie. One problem is that the color timing is not correct. The music isn't done. And the ADR isn't finished either.
What's ADR?
The dubbing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Schrader was like, can you give me more money? And they're like, no, but make sure all of that's done.
Come on.
So they give him no money. He can't bring back Vittorio, the cinematographer. He can't bring him back to finish it.
Shit.
He can't finish the music properly. He can't get the original composer to finish the music, and he can't get dubbing done on the film.
Oh, that's why the metal band does it for free?
That's why he asked the metal band to do it for free.
That is wild. I mean, also nice of them to do it, but damn.
Yeah.
Could have cashed in on the $12 that the movie made.
And so Schrader said that regardless of Harlan's film, he was like, Morgan Creek probably would have taken my film and like completely fucked around with it like drastically anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So he was happy he like for no money he got, I mean, no money to Schrader at the time. Like I could use $35,000. If Morgan Creek wants to give me $35,000, I'll do it. I'll edit any film of theirs if they want. I'll edit this film again.
Yeah.
But like he said, he was like, I mean, they would have fucked around with my film, and he said something very funny. He's like, I ended up with Final Cut from a company that prides itself on fixing every film they make. Their motto is, if it isn't broke, we didn't make it.
Respect.
So essentially, like, he finishes the movie, and they secure a release at the Brussels International Film Festival. And this movie becomes like this. It's weirdly... It comes out on the DVD, like this like deluxe DVD version, which is like, I don't know who the fuck, it probably cost like $39.99 at the time. I don't know who the fuck would buy that.
Oof.
But it was like, interestingly, like the Snyder cut of its time, like without the internet involvement of like psycho man babies like crying about it. But it was just such like it was such a big deal, you know, like it was such a thing. And the interviewer on the venerable CaptainHowdy.com, he asked him, he was like, if he's upset, the movie will always live in the shadow of Rennie Harlan's version. And he said, no, it'll live in the shadow of the controversy. It will always have an asterisk on it. It will always be seen as a unique bit of film history.
Oof.
Which I'm like, that's exactly why we're here to talk about it. And
it is unique.
It is. It's
for something that's two of its kind.
Yeah.
It does stand the fuck out.
It is like, it is fascinating. Like, I truly think it's like a fascinating object in the world of cinema. Yeah.
And I'm glad there's so much, there's just enough Schrader in it to appreciate it for the kind of like meditative drama that it ends up being. It's so much more than a horror. In fact, any of the horror is taken away because of the bad CG and the fucking hyena and the little spooky flash, whatever anime villain that they had for The Exorcist. Even if you showed us none of that and you just showed Che being kind of malicious and just having a conversation about hell and how it looks, how God only looks good when you're in the depths of hell and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, just the dialogue itself carries so much impact that you don't need to see like bad animals walking around and growling at him or stuff like that.
I think it's like, I think this movie has a lot of potential, and it
definitely
shows like flashes of what it could have been, and it just wasn't. Like, even the thing that's like I find very disappointing about it, speaking of the CGI and stuff, which makes sense though, is like, if you told me this movie was from like 1991, I would be like, that
it
tracks. Must be. Yeah. It's from 2005, and it's
Come
like
on.
pretty.
All the Harry Potters
bad.
are out. What are you doing?
Yeah. We're in a post Lord of the Rings, George W. Bush world.
It is such a detriment to have this bad a CG in a movie that is fairly good.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
It makes it worse.
Yeah.
That you have a comical fucking villain when you have such a serious theme to deal with.
Also, like, knowing the thing I knew about like the color grading not being finished, like this movie it is very flat, and it's very like, it's very non-stylized in a lot of ways. And like, you think of the use of in the original Exorcist, the use of like color and saturation and shadow and things like that. Definitely. And in this movie, there's almost none of that.
It looks like it's filmed on my old Motorola flip phone.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. and even like when they descend into the demon idol cave, it's like, dude, this is shockingly well lit for only having one doorway. Like it's just it doesn't have, I don't know. It's a weird movie. It's just such a weird fucking situation and weird film.
Which is why like the beginning has more of an impact from like a fear point of view, because they work with shadows and lighting and all that really well, and they have a terrifying fucking exorcist lady in it, spooky lady. Yeah,
I know. It's so I should have watched that movie. I don't know if I could find it though.
It's fully available on YouTube for free.
Oh, good. Yeah, all right.
So we'll get to it.
But could I buy the 4K double DVD?
That's what we're gonna do.
Woo!
Wink,
Yeah,
wink.
physical media coming back.
Hey, yo.
Yeah. Because we're not going to have the internet for very much longer.
That's true.
Because soon it'll just be X,
You know.
the white supremacist website.
We're in the future now.
The whole internet will just be
How apropos.
white supremacy.
It's the dominion of our lives.
It's so funny. I put like an app limit on like some apps that I don't want to look at right now. And it's funny when your phone is like, you sure you want to look at this? Like, come on. You said you don't want to look at it. Are you sure you want to look at it right now? And they go, yeah, I don't want to look at it. I feel like in a couple weeks, the internet will just be that, but everyone's homepage will automatically be X, the white supremacist website. And then when you try to go to Google, they'll be like, are you sure you don't want to look at white supremacy today?
Are you sure?
Are you sure you don't want to look at Nazi content?
It might make you feel
Listen,
a little bit
some
different.
of it makes sense.
Don't knock it till you tried it. Check it out.
Yeah. Anyway, politics. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. I don't know. This movie surprised me that I liked it, but
yeah,
it also in comparison to the rest of the series, is so much better.
Yes, definitely.
The other ones are not fucking good.
They're not as thoughtful as this one.
No,
they're not.
No.
It's like you can tell there's like a heavy glimpse of like First Reformed in this. Which is such a final, finished, beautiful product.
I feel like Marin is very First Reformed-esque.
Yeah.
I can see where Schrader kind of found Hawk's kind of thing in it. But First Reformed is like, Marin's character in this feels like he wrote like a paragraph about Marin being like, this is who he is, this is what he's like, and this is what he believes in. Whereas like First Reformed is a character study of this one guy.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Which is also smashing. Everybody go watch it if you haven't.
Yeah, and it's like, people are really down right now, and it really lift you up. It'll make you feel good about the world. That's the purpose of that film, I think. Is
man,
just look at the cover. Just you'll be like, that looks like a happy film.
That looks like what will be in 4 years.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, First Reformed, the happiest film on earth.
You know what? I might watch it just to.
Yeah,
because I'm an emotional cutter. So
First Reformed is a fucking
today.
great movie. We talked about it a long time ago. Talked about Master Gardener and all that shit. Are you excited for O Canada? Are we gonna go see that?
I'm fucking stoked.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that was.
I think it has Jacob Elordi in it too.
All right.
Yeah.
Is he Canadian? He is now.
He is now, man. He's Australian, so he's basically Canadian.
As lots of people are to be.
Yeah.
Quite soon.
We saw. Speaking of Pope shit, we saw Conclave. We saw the Pope's NBA Finals movie, Conclave.
10 times the Pope's.
Movie was fucking good.
Fucking
really
so
good. Yeah.
So good. I'm glad we saw it at the cinemas too, because I would have enjoyed it watching on my phone under the sheets. You know how I do. Yeah.
It's actually not. Format. You're not going to be able to see it on a TV. It's going to go from theaters to your phone.
Theaters to your phone.
Straight. It's a straight up pipeline.
No medium screen, but there is a monologue that Voldemort delivers, which alone is worth watching this movie for. It's
a fucking great movie.
Beautiful.
We're gonna go see a Nora tonight.
Yeah, baby.
That's exciting.
Pure cinema.
Yeah.
Because as you know, we are a couple of cinephiles.
Couple cineasts.
Couple cinecriminals.
Couple dominions of the Exorcist.
Eminem, what are you doing here? Who let you out?
Oh man. Yeah, I like this movie, actually. I think I kind of...
Me too.
It's got cult vibes to it.
Yes.
And I think that's okay.
Is some of the qualification to become a cult film is to just not look like you've tried hard at visuals? You know what I mean? Not in a derogatory way. I genuinely mean, like, if it looks kind of gritty and like all, low def camera and just like put together in a way that it makes you feel like you could do it.
My interpretation of a cult film is whatever I say. Whatever I claim to be a cult film is a cult film. Yeah. No, because I did hear about someone. I heard someone talk about this movie on a podcast, saying it was like one of the more underrated sequels. Because like Halloween has like 10 sequels. Yeah. And fucking Friday the 13th and all that kind of stuff. That a lot of them drop off after the first one. And if you're like lots of real like hardcore horror fans will kind of like forgive a lot of the trespasses to see all the crazy shit that like Freddy does when he fingers Jason or whatever.
Oh my God.
But
babe.
like, and The Exorcist, shockingly, like I think The Exorcist might be the least enjoyable version of that as a series, because like the first movie is like a Best Picture nominee and the rest are so bad in comparison. And to be honest, like I was thinking of this when I watched Believer, which again is not a good movie but has some good aspects, that I was just like, it seems so impossible to break free from the premise of these films in an interesting way, because I actually recommend you should watch Believer, like not like sit down and like watch it, but like maybe while you're working, watch it.
Yeah.
The first half of it is like, and this could lead to something really interesting, and it just leads to them doing an exorcism. And that's just so boring. Like, it's just so fucking boring. Yeah.
Oh, damn. That promise. I would have loved to see a young Paul Bettany in a Schrader film. Even in Dominion.
Yeah,
I feel like
he
if
could have
they
been
had
Francis.
Yeah, dude. He could have been the young priest.
Neeson was the original Marin.
Yo, that tracks.
Yeah.
That tracks.
Yeah, but he dropped out after they couldn't like get it going in time or something. He dropped out. But
he was like, sorry, I'm taken elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm gonna go do this film in France. I think it's not gonna do anything for my career, but it sounds fun.
Yeah,
I'm Liam Neeson.
He really fucked that one up.
I'm in France. Liam Neeson in France. The Liam Neeson French Diaries.
Does he also go to Albania at some point?
Yeah, never. They're only in France.
Only France. Yeah. Liam Neeson, only France.
Yeah. You got anything more to say about this?
Just that it's. I watched Exorcist at the beginning, and that stayed in my brain for so long a time that by the time I watched Dominion, I thought I was watching the same film. Yeah. But holy shit, there's two of them.
For anyone who listens to this who's like 25 and under, which is no one, this is what happens when you have watched like a million movies. You start to forget everything.
But also clear memory of like
it's in your subconscious.
And feeling more terrifying and having a feeling of like, oh God, this thing is gonna come up, and it never does.
Yeah.
Because it's a completely different film. So you know what? You and I are gonna watch Exorcist the beginning after this.
Hey, after this, the shark swims into the kids' pool. I'm like, no, that's Jaws. No. And you're like, no, I swear it was the Exorcist at the beginning.
Trust me. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, thank you so much for listening.
I'm Pazuzu.
I'm Father John.
You're tired.
Yeah. Thank you for this. Has been The Low Ceiling. Stay safe out there.
Yeah.
Get on the internet before it all goes away.
Yeah, use it all up.
Yeah.
All right. Take up as much internet as you can.
We love and care for you.
Yeah, man.
And watch this movie. Like, I don't know. Watch it. Like,
hell yeah.
Don't pay too much attention.
And if you don't like it, blame Canada, because that's what.
But you know what? If you like it, buy the 4K. Double disc.
Straight up purchase it
for $49.99.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. Goodbye.